and they'll find their space. All right. So I'm gonna invite Daniel Dumig. I don't know how to say the last name. I'm sorry about that. Okay. From ASICS, the innovation manager. All right. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Grab your mic. Introduce your panel. All right. I'm gonna leave the whole thing to you now.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, try open it. Open it. Just here. Sometimes they do. Hello.
You're really the sound engineer.
Yeah, I try.
Thanks
You
a
have
lot.
to do 1, 2, 1, 2, check.
Yeah, check.
Yeah, that's
Tim,
it. That's
you're
the
off.
one. All right, Daniel.
Ladies
enjoy.
and gentlemen, we have a fantastic panel for you today. So we will talk about 45 minutes about the, as you can see, the magic formula behind the collaboration from startups with corporates, but we could also frame it a bit like, let's talk about the secret sauce. So I'm very glad that I have two very masterful chefs that are sharing stage with me today. So first of all, I would like to introduce Alejandro from MasterCard. And another chef at the pan is the Chief Marketing Officer of Redpoint, Baxter. Please take a seat. I think, Alejandro, you have to sit here under your photo so everybody knows who is who. Difficult.
I have a beard, so it's pretty easy to identify me, right?
So, as we're cooking the secret sauce today, let's heat up the kitchen a bit together. I would like right now to invite you, maybe Alejandro first, to introduce yourself quickly. And as 2019 is coming to an end, and we have the guy from MasterCard here, I would like to ask you for the priceless moment of 2019 that you would like to share with you while you're introducing yourself also.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be in this event, which is now consolidating as a very relevant startup event in Barcelona. So my name is Alejandro Vanegas. I lead business development unit in MasterCard in Spain, which basically works on developing the ecosystem in several verticals, like government, transit, and of course, fintechs. And I guess my 2019 precious moment has been that this is the first time I was able to complete an Olympic triathlon in Gandia, and hopefully this will lead to do some more next year.
You were wearing the right shoes, no? Right brand?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great. Baxter.
Great. I'm Baxter. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Redpoints, a software company based here in lovely Barcelona. Our company helps to protect brands from counterfeit products and from fake listings, illegal distribution online. So we work with a lot of brands, including a very well-known footwear brand currently you may be aware of, to help them to monitor the online marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, and Alibaba and so forth to take down counterfeit listings. So unfortunately, it's a growing business because counterfeit products are a big problem, but it's a quite interesting space to be in. In terms of my priceless moment of 2019, I think for me it actually just happened. I just got back from, you might be able to tell from my accent that I'm not from this part of the world. I just got back from California on a trip with my wife to see my wife's parents and her extended family for Thanksgiving, which may not seem like a big thing, but I very rarely get a chance to go back and see family or to even enjoy Thanksgiving over there. So that was really a great moment where we had a huge group of family that I see once every 5 years or something like that. So to me, that was pretty priceless. It happens very infrequently, so enjoyed that.
Alejandro, we're still in the kitchen. The secret sauce is still not prepared. So I want to know, in the kitchen, what's your biggest success story? What's the favorite plate you can prepare, first of all?
Yeah, so it's been 8 years in the kitchen working on cooking different recipes, right? And over the last 1-2 years, we had a couple of interesting success stories. I guess the most relevant one has been what we've done with Divido. Divido, it's fast-growing, based in the UK, POS financial and smart financial partner, which with whom we kind of incubated in our accelerator program in StartUp, and we were able to close a commercial deal with them to help them expand in Europe. They are growing pretty fast, and this is kind of a proof success story where we helped them cook the recipe together, and we were able to go to a restaurant and serve that recipe to the market.
Baxter, from your side, so your biggest success story when it comes to collaboration with corporate?
Yeah, well, I think for me, I'm a vegetarian for a number of years, so it's a really spicy chili is my favorite type of dish to make with lots of beans and veggies and spices. And I think for me the greatest success story is one that's pretty spicy, which is around our collaboration both internally with our marketing team and our sales team to try and work with different corporate partners. So in the current role, a lot of what we're trying to do is to work with the major marketplaces and that relationship, and I'm talking about Amazon and others, and that relationship is always very tricky to navigate because they're kind of like partners, they're kind of like customers, and in a way we're solving a problem that they have on their platform. So navigating that and telling the right story, doing the right thing for our customers and building on that relationship is a challenge, but it's also potentially leads to our greatest success.
Talking about challenges, there is when we cook, and there is a lot of times also when we have a faux pas, so stuff doesn't really work out the way it should. Alejandro, right now, if you think about like your biggest fuck up when it comes to collaborating with startups, what would that be?
So it's been around 8 years that we've been collaborating with startups globally. So for you that don't know a startup, we basically have 10 locations globally where we basically take every year 1,600 new applications, and we only get in 40 new startups, so we really want to make it interesting for startups. What happened with us was that when we started out, we were focusing in any type of a startup, meaning earlier stage, mid-stage, growth stage, and the value that we provide is try to connect these magnificent services that the startups have with our network, with our ecosystem globally, which is formed by 22,000 banks, 50 million of merchants, and some other technology partners that we work with. And at the beginning, this didn't work. This didn't work because we were not able to scale them up. Because when we were trying to push these solutions, banks were not ready, or merchants were not ready to put this in place, right? So we have totally changed our mindset. We have built a new process of onboarding startups and a way to collaborate in a better way, and we have learned a lot about what we can do and what we cannot do. And now we are focusing on more mid-stage startups where we definitely can add value.
And Baxter, from your side, with corporates, anything that really went sideways?
Yes, probably the worst fuck-ups I probably can't share publicly, but I'll say in general, in terms of, I think for Redpoints as a company who, we're a startup, but we've grown and we've had a bit of success and we have a lot of customers. For us, I think the biggest learning that we had is once we started to scale and saw how customers were interested in our product, it was very easy to get a sense of overconfidence in that the product is so good. Why wouldn't any corporate want to talk to you about how you can help them with their customers or their problems by employing your technology? And so our approach at first was a little too confident in coming in and just saying, here it is, it's amazing, it's obviously better than what you have, why wouldn't you want to use it? And not really respecting the view of the corporates and the problems that they're trying to solve and the challenges that the individuals we were working with are trying to solve. So we had to go back and make sure that we took a softer, more collaborative approach and really tried to have an empathetic view of those that we were working with, which has led to much better results overall.
So the question right now should be, how should the favorite dish taste like at the end? Alejandro, so what are you actually looking for when it comes to startups?
So what we look for is first an innovative solution, so something that is making a specific process or service different. Second, we look at a robust team. This is for us key. So it's not just a great idea, right? But a great team. This is for us key. And third, which is important, is that the solution it's ready to go to the market. It's a tested product with some clients using it, and the right funding to kind of be able to survive over the next few months, where we will help to grow the company.
And Baxter, from your side, what are you looking for in corporate? So,
yeah, I think it's not going to be an unsurprising answer, but in looking that the sum of the the corporate and startup working together is going to add a lot of value and a lot more value than they could by themselves for the end customer or client. I think if you can't clearly see that the combination together could do something that's really innovative, but also can add tons of value for the end user, then it's, why are you even talking in the first place? So you have to, for me, the perfect dish is to be able to see that and see that together you have a force multiplier, which is really going to make something quite powerful, and that the combination of, as Alejandro said, the combination of teams plus technology plus the idea behind it combined together can really do something powerful. That's when it's time to move forward and explore something seriously.
Yeah, to prepare the perfect dish, you need a strong team. We heard it. But is there something that when it comes down to founders and the founding team, and when you assess them, is there some specific characteristic that you're looking for within the team?
Yeah, definitely. I think something that we've learned over the last 8 years. So we find out that there are 2 or 3 ingredients that we would like to see in an entrepreneur. First is risk tolerance. So in order to build something which is going to be disruptive, it has to be something where you need to take some risks in terms of market, in terms of challenge, in terms of how you build the product technology. Second, it's very much linked to what we were talking before, is openness, in the sense that you have defined your perfect world, but in reality, things don't work that way in a corporate because of their technology limitations, because of their politics. And then, trying to be creative in how you approach to things and try to be visionary what's coming next. Typically, we've seen failure of some initiatives because there were no clear path after the POC. So you build something which is great, testable, but you were not anticipating what will be required next in order to be launching this in a more massive way. So these are more or less the 3 things that we would like to find in an entrepreneur.
And from the other side, so the corporates, obviously, if you want to work with a corporate, there must be like an innovation lead, a new business development manager with a certain DNA setting. Baxter, would you say that this DNA should look like?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because from the startup side, it's actually very similar in terms of what you're looking for from the corporate. You're just looking for them to be really willing to embrace a new technology, a new way of doing things, and to really be open to the idea of whatever innovative ideas and technology that you're bringing to the table, that they will have an open mind about it, embrace it, and help to really work together collaboratively to make something successful. So you're looking to see, okay, can we work together as a team, and are they actually interested in what we have? Versus a lot of corporates, I think, do these kind of research or investigation where they're just, use the expression, kicking the tires, just trying to see what's happening and, might not lead to anything. You want to see that they're investing their time and effort in giving you a fair chance as well, and that they are open to actually moving forward when there's a good potential synergy between the 2.
And Baxter, we stay a bit with you. So when it comes to new collaboration opportunities, like where do you spot them though? Where do you find them? So how do you scan the landscape to find these opportunities?
Yeah, that's interesting because I think a lot of it actually ends up being somewhat opportunistic. So, I try to take the approach when working with our team at Redpoints and in previous roles to have people always be out there in the market to understand what is going on with different corporations who may be having innovation efforts that are underway, setting up innovation labs or having particular signs that they're open to doing new and interesting things. So for instance, I think it's changed a lot over the last 5 years, where you'll see a lot of really established legacy companies set up. The classic thing to do is take your company and then add X to the end of it, and then that's like your innovation arm, So you'd have like MasterCard X or what have you. But these things are, I see some laughter, so people must have experienced this. So I think that if you're kind of scanning what's out there in the market, you can see companies try to invest in this. You can see the CEO and leadership team start to talk about these kind of things, and then you can use that as your moment to try and jump in. one of the great things is to come to events like this and see which are the corporate companies that actually show up. So if MasterCard shows up, then clearly they're interested in collaboration and innovation. If ASIC shows up, clearly they're interested as well. So that's another great source, I think, is actually to make sure you stay in tune with the community and you see what corporates are taking the effort to send high-level people to come to events like this to see what's happening with the startup scene, because that in and of itself is a great indicator that it's time to have a conversation, or at least they're open to a conversation, I should say.
Alejandro, imagine the following situation right now. You have the startup, you found it, the one that you want to collaborate with, but somehow the chef and the team cooks in the wrong kitchen, is already working with the competition. So what would you do?
So actually, this has happened to us in multiple times, but I guess we really trust on the value that we can bring, and what we try to look is at different angles of how we can speed up things. And this is, for example, one of the things we've done in Europe recently, where we launched this program called Accelerate, which is a program we have to make sure that companies that start to work with us on the payment side can launch something in a quicker time. And through this way of trying a different way, we have been able to get the chef back into our kitchen, trying to show that even if you were working with a competitor, maybe working with MasterCard gives you a better product. So this is how we have approached.
So we talk about the secret sauce, the ingredients. I think maybe it's a good moment, like Baxter, to go a bit deeper and to say, okay, what, like really wrapping it up a bit, like what would be for you the secret, or all the ingredients for this secret sauce? What would you put in when it comes to collaboration between corporate and startup?
Yeah, well, I think it ends up being a combination of a lot of the little things that we were just talking about. There is no, this is the sad part, there is no magic, there is no secret sauce. It really is about being able to go out into the marketplace, to have, frankly, a lot of conversations, most of which go absolutely nowhere, with different corporations and companies, and have a very open and flexible approach where you're willing to share your vision for the future, why you think your solution, your technology, your platform, whatever it is better than what's out there and is going to disrupt whatever industry you're playing in. Be confident with that approach. Talk to a lot of people and then see who is willing to have the conversation with you, who seems like they have the willingness to also be flexible to work with you to develop something together, and that share the same vision for improving and making something more powerful in the future together. And I think if you get all those things combined together, and frankly, if you just really like working together and you have a good working relationship, I feel like oftentimes that leads to something that's productive, even if it doesn't ultimately end up in some great established partnership that lasts for years and years. At least both parties can get something out of the arrangement. And I think those are, taken all together, kind of the keys for how I see it working well.
If we can add something here, Dan,
actually,
it's because we are a corporate, it's true, but we don't sit in the typical corporate seat, because we are actually in between corporates and startups. So we, as a technology company, we actually accelerate startups to drive those innovations into corporate, right? And what we've seen, it's 3 or 4 things that based on our learning. So initially, we were seeing that companies were working like us on silos. So we started to see that in a partnership mode things could work better, but partnership doesn't work well in all situations. So I think there are 3 or 4 ingredients where corporates really need to work hard in order to allow companies like Baxter's to kind of push for innovation. I think one of them is speed. This is typically, and this is something that there has to be a commitment on the speed on the company to launch something quick. Because of the legacy systems that most of the big banks have, this is always an obstacle. Commitment from management that I guess we can talk later about this to make this happen. So not just a product guy that really wants to enrich a value prop, or a sales guy that really wants to kind of find something better than competitors. And then I guess in terms of launching something, being very much focused on the customer, right? Sometimes we try to cook things on the kitchen without looking out there, and I think corporates, and because startups do this all the time, right? But typically banks or big corporates lack of thinking about laser focus on customer and how this is going to be adding value to the customer. So these are the three ingredients that I think we found, which were evidence to do things in the right way.
And I totally agree from my experience. So talking about speed, maybe we can directly jump into this. Baxter, how do you think you can speed up like these very slow corporates that normally when you come in as a startup and you have it all set, ready to go, and then they're like just not following through?
Yeah, this one's always tricky because every established corporation, they have their own kind of internal culture. They have their own way of doing things, and by nature, even the most agile of big corporations is somewhat conservative in their approach because they're protective of the business that they've built, and they don't want to lose or disrupt that. And so, from my perspective, the way to speed things up and to be as quick as you can is to start small. Start as small as you're comfortable in starting. Alejandro mentioned before proof of concepts. So making sure your proof of concept is narrowly defined. It's something that your team can execute on very quickly. It's something that you can try to get through and pass the layers of approval within the corporate team, hopefully by avoiding things like legal review or anything like that. Although that's very difficult to avoid that. Something that can be kind of easily bitten off from their side and that they can agree to. So you basically want to break it down into the smallest unit of work where at the end of it, you feel comfortable that you could demonstrate whether or not it was a success and whether or not you should continue and try to do something bigger. But the number one thing is to really start small and well-defined and work from there.
Alejandro, right now, I mean, there's this open innovation mindset that you need in the corporation. So how do you promote this? How do you get like on top of things that just really gets like really taken into the company culture overall?
So this starts actually from the top in our company. So our CEO, Ajay Banga, it's really pushing this forward and as his mantra in order to drive the company, which made our company totally changed from what it was 10 years ago, which was more financial company, to what it is today, which is purely technological company, actually trading at values that you see only in companies like Google or Apple. And then this is also bottom up because we have organized every year something what we call the Innovation Week, which is a global opportunity for every employee. So we have 40,000 employees in more than 200 countries to become an entrepreneur during that week and try to pitch their innovation and actually enter into a competition like the one that you have today, where the winner will be getting the funding from MasterCard to launch this in a POC live. So we work in both from the top and from the bottom up to drive innovation, and this is probably what it has helped us to embed new products that are a little bit different.
Yeah, so I think we all agree we would never go to a restaurant without looking into TripAdvisor ratings. And so when it comes to innovation, TripAdvisor ratings, measuring success, how does measuring success look like at MasterCard?
So we have learned a lot about this process. So of course, you could look at the traditional KPIs, or you could look at alternative ways of measuring success. So we have learned about how to do things in a different way. So things like onboarding customers, which banks thought they have it done in addition well. I mean, we learned that there are new ways through technology and through a more innovative approach to do it. Or we have tested the success also in launching new programs into the market, right? New models that were new and that now are tested. So this is, for example, the example of Divido. So Divido entered into a market dominated by banks by providing something which was integrated with the merchant with a very interesting approach of building a consortium of banks financing the transaction and they providing the technology. So this is another example of how you can succeed by launching something which is different.
And sometimes when you look at the menu, there is this one dish that has to get off the menu because TripAdvisor tells you so. The customer doesn't like it. which is at the end like comes down to when do you kill an opportunity? When is it really, Baxter, maybe the moment to say, okay, I've now tried everything, but this is not working. So how do you deal with this to get it off the menu at the end?
Yeah, this is one that's always challenging because there's a lot of, in any sort of established relationship or collaboration, there's always a lot of sunk cost in terms of time, in terms of efforts, in terms of direct money spent to get something off the ground. So everybody kind of always wants it to work, but it just sometimes it doesn't. I think for me the thing is, as I mentioned before, when you're starting small on these pilots, when you're running a pilot with a corporate, to make sure that you work with them and you have very well-defined goals for what success of this pilot would mean, something that's transparent and shared, whether that's an online dashboard that's tracked or you just share metrics on a regular basis to make sure you're aligned. And hopefully you're staying so close to it that it shouldn't be any surprise that it's not going to move forward, because everybody hopefully is on the same team and you don't get a call all of a sudden in the middle of the night saying, this isn't working, we're pulling the plug. But more that you're working towards the set of objectives and you're realizing for whatever reason it's just not working out. Maybe the technologies just don't work together, or maybe the teams are struggling to really align, whatever it may be. By aligning to those objectives, reviewing them consistently and frequently, and then deciding at the end of it, based on our achievement against those objectives, is this something we want to continue? Because sometimes you fall short of a numerical goal, but you realize actually the collaboration's working well. We just weren't measuring things correctly, or we weren't measuring the right thing. And you could still choose to go on. But by aligning to a key metric, you can decide, okay, if this is really not for us, at that point, both parties should always feel, okay, if we don't achieve what we're trying to set out to, we can walk away, and there shouldn't be any hard feelings or bad thoughts about it. It's just didn't work. But it always is tricky to finally get to that point where you say, okay, for sure, we need to get out of there.
Alejandro, from your side, any?
Yeah, so I guess during the last round of selection of startups, we were presenting something we call the pilot canvas, which is a learning that we produced. It's something that we produced based on our learnings with working with different startups. I think the big reason for failing is that sometimes startups don't speak the same language than corporates do. So what we have done is try to generate a template where we will force startup entrepreneurs to put down the right things that the corporates are expecting to see in terms of nailing down really the market you want to target, the technology you're going to use, and the sophistication you want to have in that technology. Coming back to Baxter's point that keep it simple is, I think, is key when you are trying to build what we call the minimum viable pilot. Also including 3 elements that typically are missed, right? So first, feasibility. Is this feasible to develop? Desirability, are there customers out there that really want this? And then the commercial model, which needs to come together with this solution, because sometimes people focus, as I said before, too much on the short term. And with this picture, it's much easier to see if opportunities should be killed or not if you deviate from that plan.
Yeah, so a white paper from the World Economic Forum from 2018 says that one of the biggest challenges that startups meet when they work with corporates and corporate investors, corporate venture capital funds, is the dominating approach that the corporate brings to the table at the end. So when you work together with startups, you will go into a collaboration agreement with them. In one sentence, maybe, what is, like, from your side, Alejandro, like a key takeaway when it comes to this collaboration agreement to really get something out of it that works for both sides?
Yeah, so in our case, it's, as I said, so we sit in the middle, right? So we need to find a right collaboration with the startup, which works for the other side, which works with the actual corporate. So I think our learning was to really focus on what we said before. So our program is basically a 6-month engagement where we're bringing the startup, we understand their business model, we understand the product roadmap, and what are the use cases that they can apply globally with our ecosystem. So I guess the requisites that we put there is that, as I said, that we need to make sure the product adds something different. So if you are launching a loyalty program, it has to be something different from what exists in the world today. That the team is robust, is tech savvy, it has a right mix, and that the solution is able to be launched with clients in real markets, right? These are the 3 requirements that we have, and then we bring them into the program, which is pretty flexible in terms of we don't ask for down payments or any other specific requirements, and actually it's so flexible that sometimes actually we even invest in those companies. In their last year, we have raised something like 1.1 billion euros on direct investment startups to help them grow. And the only requirement we have is, okay, we need to have some resilient business that we can actually help to scale.
Getting back into the kitchen, the secret sauce is sizzling, but there is sometimes an ingredient that might kill the whole taste, Baxter. So when it comes to collaboration with corporates, what would be like the deal breakers, the no-goes from your side?
Yeah, there's two main things I think that are red flags, that are bad ingredients you need to watch out for. Number one is if the corporate comes in and they're really talking about a lot of kind of controlling. They have a really controlling attitude. So they really want to have a lot of legal agreements. They want to talk about IP ownership and just getting you into areas that you're a little uncomfortable with in terms of the end product and how the end relationship is going to come out from there. And then the second is if they are pulling you and your team, your product and your vision in an area that's totally not what you want your company to be, it's easy to keep saying yes to the company that's asking because they got billions of dollars they can invest. They've got a great brand name. This maybe could lead to a lot of success for you financially and so forth. But I really advise, especially from founding teams, that they try to stick to the vision that they have. This isn't to say that you can't pivot if you see an opportunity and you're really into it. But if somebody's trying to drag you into doing something that that's not really what you see as the vision, don't be afraid to walk away from that and stick with that. And history is full of countless examples that I won't go into today of founders who really did stick with their vision long term and were rewarded for it, even though they turned away millions or in some cases billions of dollars in order to do that. So those are the two things that are kind of red flags that immediately make me say, okay, maybe this isn't the right thing for us.
Looking a bit into the future, in 2025, Alejandro, what do you think the collaboration with corporates and startups will look like in the future?
So, I don't have a magic ball. So when you think back 10 years ago, we have the financial crisis exploding. Bitcoins were totally dismissed. And the best phone out there was Nokia 5230, which almost no smart features, right? But what we are seeing globally, and I'm glad to see today one of the startups in the room talking about this, is what we call conversational commerce, right? How you can embed AI and bots into payments, and how you can build, for example, unique experience in a supermarket or in other type of retail stores where you can really build a differentiated shopping experience at physical stores. Because in online, I guess it's a little bit more easy. Still in physical stores, sometimes payment it's a problem. You need to take out your card or your cash to pay, and we are working on this type of solutions, which we are seeing a lot of traction, and probably this is going to be the theme for 5 or 6 years down the road.
Baxter, from your side, what do you think?
Yeah, I can't imagine what 5 years from now is going to look like. But one thing that I think is going to be a trend that continues to pop up is, one, corporates are going to continue to behave a lot more like startups. We've already just seen this in the last 5 years, where you've had these big legacy firms, manufacturers, just the what you would think of as the oldest type of companies possible, who are opening innovation arms, who are moving to the cloud, who are doing all these things and trying to bring on people with entrepreneurial mindsets. They're setting up innovation arms and so forth. And so I think that trend is going to continue to the point where a lot of corporations are actually going to look more, instead of having a typical kind of business unit structure, they're actually going to have a bunch of different startup looking companies within their business that are given a problem and given the resources to address it. And so they'll work with other kind of what we think of now as startups, but it'll start to be the lines will start to be very blurry between what's a startup and what's part of the corporation. And I think the consumerization of the corporate world is going to continue, and you'll see things like corporations, essentially be acting like almost as if they're funding a Kickstarter campaign in terms of getting involved in these startups, where people will be bidding to get involved with different projects that they think are going to be interesting and they think they're going to be powerful for their company. So I think it's going to be a lot more fast moving. I mean, that's an easy thing to guess at because everything always gets quicker. And a lot more fluid in terms of how corporations and startups work together. And I think it's going to lead to a lot of really interesting innovations over time.
So we are arriving to the end of this panel, and normally there is a lot of startups pitching here, and we have been already experiencing the startup pitch competition. And right now I would flip the coin a bit, and then right now I would like to ask Alejandro first, and then Baxter afterwards, to pitch your proposal to the audience. So why should, in your case, Alejandro, a startup, come to MasterCard to work together with you guys? Maybe you have 2 minutes, maximum 3, to pitch it to the audience.
Should I stand up or?
You can do. The format is free.
There we go.
Okay, guys, so let's go for it. Okay, so MasterCard, as to surprise to many of you, we are not a credit card company, right? We are a technology company. We are present in more than 200 countries, and we are connecting the whole commerce globally with a unique network of more than 50 million merchants and more than 20,000 banks. This means that we are touching every transaction that happens today, and payments is embedded in almost every use case. And what we are doing now, it's moving out from the traditional card payments into what we call multi-rail company. So we are now embedding with new technology account-to-account payments. We are embedding new things like biometric authentication, so paying with your face, paying with your thumb, paying with your eyes. And we're enabling new ways of doing things with technology, like, for example, fraud, security, which is becoming more and more important for many different use cases. So we work in 2 ways. We can help startups to build a scale and launch their product globally, and this can be done very fast because we can connect the banks and the pain points that all the banks have with your single solution. So this is something that is really quick. Applications are straightforward through an app, and every year we kind of bring up 40 startups into our program, like Divido, like other companies like Airwallex, which is now a unicorn, the first unicorn in Australia. And last but not least, we enable payment models. So if you have a payment opportunity that you would like to explore, we can be your partner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Baxter, red point.
Well, Alejandro has me convinced. So this is my pitch to him to give me some of these billions that they're investing in startups. I'll say for me, trying to pitch to corporates, the thing that we're highlighting at Red Points is that we're already working with the brands and customers that are behind the corporates today. And what do I mean by that? We're the company that's looking out for the small business provider that's trying to make a business selling online, whether that's through Amazon, through their own website, whether they're using social media or other platforms. There's really nobody that's helping the small business owner to protect their intellectual property online, and as a result, they're getting ripped off by a flood of counterfeit products and illegal distribution online. And so my pitch to corporates is, why not work with us? We're making the e-commerce world and the internet a slightly safer place to buy and sell by enabling authentic experiences, authentic purchases between buyer and seller. And we're already working with so many brands that are a part of every corporate brand's portfolio. And so why not work together? We can make people trust again the act of purchasing on the internet, to trust the platforms that they use, and be assured that when they want to go out and get an authentic product, that they're able to complete that transaction safely, successfully, and get what they paid for. So I think the combination can be pretty powerful.
Thank you very much. So normally this would be right now the job for the moderator of the panel, which is my role at the end, to wrap this session up, but that's not what I'm going to do. So what we're going to do is, I think you're all here because you want to make meaningful connections. You might be sitting right now next to the person that you already know, so you arrived with the person next to you, and this is what we're going to change a bit. Tim didn't manage to get you all up onto the feet. We already have been standing, so I would like to invite you to stand up right now. So, and what you're going to do is, everyone except the person in the last row will turn around right now, find a person that they don't know right now. Please turn around. You have to turn. Okay.
There you go. Very nice.
And then you have to find the eyes. Somehow, the first row, you have to find a person you don't know in the room, okay? And you're going to have right now still, I think till the next session starts, there's a couple of minutes still. So what I would like to do is right now to engage with this person and share the insights of what you have learned today here, and to see how and discuss together how you could apply this to your workplace, to your everyday work from tomorrow on. So make meaningful connections, interchange ideas, and have a great Melting Lab conference. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you. Good luck.